The fear of being truly seen, and why we hide our true selves. The hidden self. We all wear masks, not out of dishonesty, but out of necessity. They help us navigate the world, protect our tenderness, and survive in places where we've learned that not everything about us will be accepted. Sometimes, it's the confident version of ourselves we wear to get through a workday, even when we feel exhausted and uncertain inside. Other times, it's the agreeable friend, the one who says yes to avoid conflict, who laughs even when the joke doesn't land. We adapt, shift, and shape ourselves to fit the spaces we're in. Not because we're lost, but because we've learned the world doesn't always welcome what's raw, real, or unfinished. From an early age, we begin to pick up unspoken rules. They come in small corrections: don't cry, be strong. Why are you so sensitive? That's not how a boy behaves. Good girls don't speak like that. And little by little, these messages carve out parts of us. We start to sense that our real selves, the loud parts, the emotional parts, the curious, chaotic, creative parts, might be too much. So we tuck them away like fragile glass we're afraid someone will break. And then we grow up. But instead of unlearning that habit, we carry it with us, into relationships, workplaces, friendships. We become so used to hiding that we forget what it feels like to truly show up as ourselves. We walk through life performing roles. The reliable one who never complains. The achiever who always delivers. The caretaker who never asks for anything in return. The peacemaker who swallows their own voice to keep others comfortable. And over time, the mask doesn't just hide us, it replaces us. The gap between who we are and who we perform grows so wide that sometimes we lie in bed at night and wonder, who am I, really? And would anyone even like that version of me? But here's the truth: hiding isn't weakness. It's a response, a wise, protective instinct born from a world that hasn't always been kind. But what once kept us safe can slowly become the thing that keeps us stuck. Authenticity isn't about bearing everything, everywhere, all the time. It's about reconnecting. Reclaiming. Remembering that your messy, sensitive, uncertain, vibrant self isn't a liability, it's a life. You don't have to rip the mask off all at once. But maybe, gently, with time. You can loosen its grip, and breathe again. Where the fear comes from. This fear of being seen, truly seen, didn't bloom overnight. It wasn't some dramatic moment when everything changed. No, it was quieter than that. More gradual. More subtle. More human. It took root slowly, over years of lived experience. Some of those experiences were loud. The kind that leave a mark, a cruel comment, a public embarrassment, a moment of deep vulnerability that someone used as a weapon. But many were small. Almost invisible. A teacher raising an eyebrow when your ideas came out too big. A parent sighing when you cried, for no reason. Friends who grew uncomfortable when you talked about the things that really mattered to you. Moments that might not seem like much to others. But to you, they were signals. Messages. Don't be too much. Don't be too honest. Don't make people uncomfortable. Don't show the parts of you that might not be easy to digest. And so, slowly, you adjusted. You edited yourself. You shrank to fit. You hid the pieces of you that felt too raw, the sadness, the weirdness, the wild imagination, the depth of feeling. Not because you didn't love those parts, but because you learned they might not be loved by others. You started to rehearse your life instead of living it. And with each small silencing of the self, you built walls, not high and dramatic, but quiet ones. Made of silence, of smiling when it hurts, of nodding when your heart is screaming something else. These weren't acts of weakness. They were acts of protection. You were surviving in a world that sometimes punishes honesty, that rewards masks more than truth. You see, the fear of being seen isn't just about vulnerability. It's about memory. The body remembers what it feels like to be dismissed, misunderstood, or mocked. And it tries to protect you from feeling that pain again. So now, when someone looks at you a little too closely, asks a question that gets too near the truth, or invites you to open up, something inside flinches. Because being seen means being exposed. And exposure feels dangerous. What if they don't like what they find? What if they walk away? These aren't irrational fears. They're deeply human ones. But they can also become our prison. We decorate the cage beautifully. We become liked, admired, even praised for the version of ourselves we present. But deep down, we know, they're loving the mask, not us. And the longer we stay hidden, the lonelier we feel. Even surrounded by people. To be seen fully is one of the scariest things we can do. But it's also the doorway to the kind of connection we long for. The kind where someone looks at you. Not the version you polished. But you. And stays. What we lose when we hide. When we hide our true selves, we might feel safer. But we slowly start to disappear. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic unraveling. But in quiet, invisible ways. We smile when we want to cry. We say, "I'm fine," when our hearts are heavy. We nod when we disagree. And we convince ourselves it's easier this way. Easier than risking judgment, rejection, or discomfort. But in protecting ourselves from pain, we also close the door on something far more vital, connection. Because the truth is, no one can truly love us if we never show them who we are. They might love our surface, our curated words, our practiced expressions, our well-behaved silence. But that love never sinks deep. It hovers. It glances off the surface of our being, never quite touching the places that ache to be seen. And so, even in friendship, even in romance, even in a crowd, we can feel achingly alone. It's a strange and quiet loneliness, to be surrounded by people who don't really know us, because we never gave them the chance. We start to wonder, if I stopped performing? If I stopped editing myself to be easier, more acceptable, more likable, would they still stay? That question can haunt us. So we keep rehearsing. We keep polishing our words, measuring our tone, hiding the parts of us that feel too sensitive, too intense, too uncertain. And in doing so, we slowly lose touch with our own truth. We become strangers to ourselves. Not because we've changed. But because we've gone quiet in our own hearts. We miss out on something sacred, the moment when another human looks at the messy, honest, unfiltered version of us. And doesn't turn away. That moment doesn't happen often. It can't, not if we're hiding. And beyond losing connection with others, we also lose the ability to connect with ourselves. Because how can we love who we are, if we're constantly apologizing for it? Constantly covering it? Constantly pretending to be someone easier to digest? The cost of hiding is high. It robs us of intimacy, of closeness, of authenticity. But perhaps even more painfully, it robs us of self-acceptance. Because we start to believe the lie that our true self isn't worthy. And when that belief settles in, we stop looking for real love. We settle for admiration, for convenience, for surface-level safety. And call it connection. But deep down, we know the difference. The power of being seen. And yet, despite everything, despite the years of hiding, despite the instinct to protect, to filter, to shrink, there is something quietly revolutionary about being truly seen. To be seen not for the role you play, not for how useful, pleasant, or composed you appear, but for who you are underneath it all. To say something soft and real, to reveal a scar, a doubt, a longing. And have someone stay. Not fix you. Not flinch. Not walk away. Just stay. That moment, however brief, has the power to shift something deep inside. Because it whispers what we long to hear: you are not too much. You are not alone. You are still worthy, even here, even now. It is one of the most human hungers. To be seen, to be known, and still be accepted. We often think being seen means sharing everything. Opening up completely. Telling the full story. But being seen doesn't require a spotlight or a stage. It begins in the quiet, everyday bravery of honesty. It's in the moment you say, "I'm struggling. I don't know what I'm doing. This matters to me, even if I can't explain why." Or even, "I'm afraid of being seen, and I'm showing up anyway." These moments aren't signs of weakness. They are signs of strength. The kind of strength that doesn't armor up, but softens instead. Because the truth is, walls might keep out pain. But they also keep out love. Masks might keep us safe. But they also keep us distant. And the longer we live behind them, the harder it becomes to feel truly connected. Even in rooms full of people. But each time we risk letting someone in. Really in. We build a different kind of safety. Not the safety of never being hurt, but the safety of being real, and finding that realness met with kindness, instead of rejection. That is where intimacy begins. Not just romantic intimacy, but the soul-level closeness that nourishes friendships, families, communities. When we allow ourselves to be seen, we also give others permission to do the same. It becomes an invitation, "Come as you are. I will meet you there." And in a world so often built on performance, this kind of authenticity is a quiet act of rebellion. It is how healing spreads. It is how connection deepens. It is how we find our way back, to each other, and to ourselves. A gentle invitation. If you've been hiding, behind a smile, behind productivity, behind a version of yourself that feels safer than the truth, know this: there is no shame in that. You did what you needed to do to feel okay in a world that often demands perfection, performance, and politeness. You adapted. You survived. And that deserves respect. But maybe now, you feel a quiet longing for something more than just survival. More than fitting in. More than being liked for a mask that doesn't quite fit. Maybe you're ready, just a little, to be known. Not by everyone. Not all at once, but maybe, by someone. Someone who's earned your trust. Someone who's proven they can hold your truth without turning away. Start there. Start small. Start gentle. Say the one thing you usually edit out. Reveal the part of you that feels too soft, too complicated, too much. Not to get applause. Not to be saved. But simply to be seen, in your presence, in your truth. Let that moment remind you of something essential: you are not broken for feeling deeply. You are not weak for needing connection. You are not a burden because your truth takes up space. The self you've hidden, the one with fears, hopes, doubts, and dreams, isn't something to be corrected. It's something to be embraced. Because the fullness of who you are, even the trembling, uncertain, unfinished parts, is worthy of love. Worthy of rest. Worthy of being met with care. You do not have to be perfect to be worthy. You do not have to be polished to be precious. You only have to be honest. And the people who are truly meant for you, those who know how to love without needing you to perform, they will not be frightened by your realness. They will not flinch at your depth. They will see you. And they will stay. Not in spite of who you are, but because of it. If this video spoke to you, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, we explore the quiet truths of life, together. And maybe, just maybe, you'll feel a little more understood with each visit. Until next time, take care of your heart.